Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce are facing huge public attention over whether they are ready to start a family. After their massive wedding, fans are searching for clues about what comes next, and the subtle hints Travis dropped on his podcast reveal why this next chapter has everyone watching closely. It happened during a football broadcast. Bill Simmons was talking about the Kansas City Chiefs, about a loss, about Travis Kelce's future in the league. Then he said it. He called Kelce a Hall of Famer, said he's getting married to Taylor Swift, having a kid with her, probably flies everywhere private, has private security everywhere he goes. He wasn't doing a pregnancy reveal. He was making a point about why Kelce should stop risking his body on the field. But nobody heard the point. They heard having a kid with her, and that's the part that went everywhere. Within hours, a routine sports commentary segment turned into a worldwide celebrity news story, even though nobody from either camp had said a word to confirm it. As of that moment, there was no official confirmation that Swift was pregnant. Neither she nor Kelce nor their representatives had commented on the claim. That didn't slow anything down. If anything, silence just poured gas on it. Here's the thing about Simmons. He's not some random guy tweeting from his couch. He's an influential sports journalist and podcaster who pioneered a style of sports writing, mixing fan passion with pop culture and analysis. First building his name as the Boston sports guy, he became nationally known at ESPN, starting in 2001, one of the most read sports writers there. When a guy like that casually drops having a kid with her mid-sentence, people don't just shrug it off. They assume he knows something, and the timing made it worse. This wasn't some random Tuesday comment floating in a vacuum. It landed right in the middle of a wedding season for the couple, right when reports had been swirling for months that the two planned to tie the knot, and right as fans were already primed to read baby signals into everything. So when Simmons said it, it didn't feel like a slip. It felt like confirmation of something people already suspected. Except, and this matters, there's no way to confirm whether Simmons actually knew something the rest of the world didn't, and for now, it reads like a pundit misspeaking. He wasn't reporting news, he was riffing. But riffing from a guy with that platform is enough to set off a chain reaction, and it did. That chain reaction didn't stop at the podcast clip. Weeks later, once the actual wedding had happened, a second wave hit, this time built around a dog. Wedding guests reportedly spotted a photograph inside the venue, showing the couple cuddling a small white dog. And fans connected that image to earlier footage of a similar fluffy dog jumping from one of Swift's vehicles. Neither of them has ever confirmed owning a dog. Didn't matter. The internet decided this was a trial run for parenthood, a kind of test drive before the real thing. Sources close to the couple leaned into that theory rather than shutting it down. One insider said friends had smiled at the rumors because Taylor and Travis have always talked about building a life together. And whether or not the dog is officially theirs, people around them see it reflecting a couple settling into married life and looking toward the future. Another went further, saying those closest to them believe caring for a pet would be a natural step before having children, and that the couple has embraced the idea of creating a family home together, which is why fans connected the dots so fast. So now you've got two separate sparks, a podcast host saying the quiet part out loud, and a dog photo turning into a parenting rehearsal in the public imagination. Both landed in the same stretch of time, right after the wedding, and both pointed at the same question. Are these two actually about to start a family? Or is this just what happens when two of the most watched people on the planet get married and the internet can't stand not knowing what's next? Then there's Donna Kelce. She's not a source leaking to a tabloid. She's Travis's mother, and she was standing in front of actual cameras at a public event just days after the ceremony. Asked about the wedding, she kept it tight, saying only that it was magical. Man, magical. She didn't confirm a baby. She didn't deny one either. She talked instead about taking her sons to watch fireworks over a lake when they were kids. A small human detail that had nothing to do with pregnancy rumors and everything to do with reminding everyone that behind the headlines, this is still a family living an actual life. That's three distinct voices already in the mix within days of each other. A sports commentator whose offhand line became a global story, anonymous insiders pushing the dog-to-baby pipeline theory, and Kelce's own mother choosing her words carefully in front of a camera. None of them gave a straight yes. None of them shut it down either. And that gap between what's been implied and what's been confirmed is exactly the space this whole story has been living in since the ceremony ended. If you want to know where Kelce himself stands, you don't have to guess from a podcast slip or a dog photo. He's talked about it directly more than once, and the through line is pretty consistent. He's not scared of this. Go back before any of the wedding buzz, before the engagement even. Kelce told his older brother Jason, in a conversation that's been referenced repeatedly since, that when it comes to kids, I see it in our future for sure. That's not a hedge. That's not a maybe someday. That's a guy stating it plainly to his own brother, the person least likely to get a rehearsed answer out of him. And Jason matters here as a source in his own right, not just as the guy Travis happened to be venting to. The Kelce brothers have spent years building an audience that hangs on every unscripted word out of their mouths on their podcast, New Heights. Kelce remains deeply involved in that show alongside his brother, which means their private conversations about family have had a habit of becoming public content, whether they planned it that way or not. When Travis said those words about seeing kids in the future, it wasn't a calculated press-friendly soundbite. It was the kind of thing that slips out between brothers and then takes on a life of its own once fans go digging for it. Those comments fueled years of speculation that marriage and children would eventually be part of the couple's story, and that's before either of those things had actually happened. Fans had been sitting on that one line from Travis for a long time, waiting to see if it would turn into something real. Then came the wedding, and with it, a fresh round of insider comments about how Kelce is approaching the idea of actually becoming a father, not just talking about it in theory. The reporting on this has been oddly specific about his emotional state. Multiple outlets, citing sources close to the couple, describe him the same way, that he simply isn't as worried about the potential challenges of raising children in the public eye as some of the people around him seem to be. One insider put it bluntly, he isn't scared. That's a notably different posture than the one being attributed to Swift in the same reporting, and we'll get into her side of it in the next part. But sticking with Travis for a second, this isn't just a guy shrugging off a hard question. This is someone who grew up the younger brother in a football family, who spent his entire adult life being watched, filmed, and analyzed on a field in front of tens of thousands of people every Sunday. The idea of being watched isn't new to him. Cameras, scrutiny, strangers with opinions about his life. That's Tuesday. So when insiders frame him as the calmer half of this equation, it tracks with a guy whose whole career has trained him not to flinch under attention. There's also the matter of what Kelce's actually building right now, separate from any baby conversation. And it says something about his mindset heading into this next chapter of his life. He's not stepping back from anything. He's preparing to return for another season with the Chiefs after signing an estimated contract worth millions, with training camp starting soon and another Super Bowl run expected to be his main focus. On top of that, he remains involved in numerous business ventures, including restaurant ownership, his growing entertainment career, and hosting the podcast with his brother. So here's a guy who by every account wants kids, has said so plainly, and isn't rattled by the idea of raising them under a microscope, but who is also gearing up for a demanding NFL season, running businesses and recording a podcast every week. That's not necessarily a contradiction. Plenty of people want a family and still have full calendars. But it does raise the obvious question of timing. Wanting something and being logistically ready to start it right now aren't the same thing. And that gap is exactly where a lot of this speculation is living. What's clear, though, is that Kelce isn't the one putting on the brakes here. Every piece of reporting that touches on his personal feelings paints the same picture. A guy who's already made peace with the idea, who talked about it with his brother before it was even official with Swift, and who doesn't flinch when people bring up how hard it might be to raise a child inside her level of fame. If the hesitation in this relationship exists, and multiple sources suggest it does, it's not coming from his side of the room. Now flip to Swift's side, because her history with this question is a lot longer and a lot messier than a single line to a brother. Start with the music, because she's been dropping hints in her own words for over a decade, long before Kelce was in the picture. Back in 2012, in an interview that's been quoted repeatedly since, she said she wanted a bunch of children running around, minimum 4, and talked about how the idea of pouring everything into another person had always felt meaningful to her. That's about as direct a statement as you'll get from a 20-something pop star about wanting a big family someday. Then 2 years later, the tone flipped. By 2014, she was telling a different outlet that she wasn't sure kids were in her future at all anymore. That's not a small shift. That's someone going from minimum 4 to genuine uncertainty in the space of 2 years. And it lines up with something else she said around that same period, a much more specific, much more uncomfortable admission about what fame does to the idea of parenthood. She said it was hard not to picture the reality of it, describing how she'd have to explain to a child that their life was normal when there will be strange men pointing giant cameras at them from the time they are babies. That's not abstract anxiety. That's a specific visual fear about photographers around an actual infant. And those concerns have only grown as her fame has kept expanding in the years since she said that. This is a woman who's dealt with multiple stalking incidents over her career. And in one especially serious case, authorities had to stop an actual terror plot aimed at one of her European concerts. We'll dig deeper into the security side of this in the next part, but it's worth flagging here because it directly shapes how she's talked about children. Not as a hypothetical lifestyle choice, but as a decision with real physical risk attached to it. So that's the backdrop. Now bring it forward to right before the wedding, because her most recent album handed fans their biggest clue yet, and it wasn't subtle. On a track called The Lines Go, Have a Couple Kids got the whole block looking like you. Got me dreaming about a driveway with a basketball hoop. Like you got me dreaming about a driveway with a basketball hoop. That's about as unambiguous as a songwriter gets. This isn't a metaphor buried in imagery you need a lyric genius to decode. It's a woman picturing a literal driveway, a literal basketball hoop, and kids that look like her partner. Fans didn't need much convincing that this was about Kelce specifically. A basketball hoop in a driveway isn't exactly subtle when your fiancé is a professional athlete. But here's where it gets complicated, because Swift has also pushed back publicly against the assumption that marriage automatically means kids come next, and fast. During a radio appearance the year before her wedding, she recounted hearing fans assume that once she got married, kids and retirement would follow immediately. And she called that framing offensive, pointing out plainly that it's not why people get married, so that they can quit their job. That's a woman actively rejecting the idea that marriage is some kind of countdown clock to motherhood. She spent years being handed a script by fans and media. Falling in love means marriage. Marriage means babies. Babies mean the end of her career. And she's pushed back on that exact sequencing in her own words, on the record, before any of this wedding speculation even started. So you've got a real tension inside her own public statements. On one hand, a brand new song with vivid, specific imagery about kids and a driveway. On the other, a woman who's explicitly said she resents the assumption that marriage automatically fast-tracks parenthood, and who's spoken for over a decade about genuine fear around raising a child inside the kind of fame she lives with. Both of those things are true at once, coming from the same person, and that's exactly why nobody outside her inner circle can say with certainty where she actually lands on timing. What sources close to her have said post-wedding tries to split the difference. One insider described the couple as eyeing the next phase of their lives as parents, but explicitly not rushing into it, describing an approach that's meant to be coordinated because starting a family will require a bit of calmness in their high-energy careers. That's the most balanced read available right now. Not wanting kids, and not sprinting toward it either. A slow walk, not a stop, not a sprint. Here's where the story stops being about lyrics and podcast comments and starts being about something much more serious, because every single report on this couple's baby timeline eventually runs into the same wall: security. This isn't a vague worry either. Sources close to the couple keep pointing to security as a major factor in whatever hesitation exists. And that hesitation apparently isn't coming from Kelce. Despite his openness about wanting children, some in their inner circle remain uncertain, specifically because of the risks tied to Swift's global fame, while he's reportedly far less concerned about the challenges of raising a kid under that level of scrutiny. To understand why this fear is so specific, you have to look at what's actually happened to her, not just what she's worried might happen. In 2024, authorities stopped an actual terror plot targeting one of her concerts in Vienna, not a vague online threat, an actual planned attack that had to be intercepted before it happened. That's on top of a career that's already included multiple stalking incidents, people showing up at her homes, at her shows, at her life, over and over again for years. Now put a hypothetical child into that picture. A baby can't be told to stay alert, can't be handed a security detail the way an adult celebrity can, can't consent to any of this. One insider laid out the concern in the plainest terms possible. She has such a security situation. It's hard to raise a kid in her world. And the same source claimed the worry doesn't stop at Swift herself, that even relatives have reportedly experienced unwanted attention as a result of her fame, which means a child wouldn't just inherit her spotlight, they'd inherit a target that extends to the whole family orbit. This fear isn't new to the relationship either. It goes back to things she said years before Kelce entered the picture, back when she first admitted how uncomfortable it was to picture, explaining a camera-filled childhood to a kid who never asked for any of it. That fear has had over a decade to compound, layered on top of actual documented threats, not hypothetical ones. And it wasn't just background noise during the wedding planning, it directly shaped a major decision. Security considerations reportedly played a role in choosing the wedding venue, with Madison Square Garden selected partly because of the protection level it could offer. That's a massive, high-visibility life event where the safety of the guests and the couple themselves outweighed other considerations in picking the location. If that's the calculus for a single-night event with hired security everywhere, imagine the calculus for raising an actual child full-time every single day for the next 2 decades. That's the wall this couple keeps running into. Kelce, by every account, is ready and unbothered by the risk. Swift's side of the equation is heavier, weighed down by a documented history of real threats, not abstract ones. And that imbalance, one partner eager, one partner carrying the actual security burden that would come with any child they have, is probably the single biggest reason nobody close to them will commit to a timeline. It's worth sitting with how asymmetric this actually is. Kelce's fame comes from being tackled by very large men on TV every Sunday. Visible, physical, but contained within stadiums and broadcast schedules. Swift's fame follows her into grocery stores, into restaurants, into every corner of her daily life, in a way that doesn't have an off-season. A child born into that isn't just born into wealth and attention. They're born into a security apparatus that has to function every single day, indefinitely, with no bye weeks. So when insiders describe the couple as approaching parenthood in a coordinated, careful way rather than rushing, this is probably the real reason why. It's not about whether they want a family. Every scrap of evidence, the song, Travis's comments to his brother, the years of speculation suggests they both do, at some level. It's about whether they can build a version of family life that doesn't put a newborn directly in the path of the kind of threats that have already targeted Swift as an adult who can at least advocate for her own protection. A baby can't do that, and that, more than anything else in this story, seems to be the real holdup. So where does all of this leave two people who just got married, who've each dropped hints about wanting kids for years, and who are surrounded by insiders offering slightly different versions of the same story? The most consistent thread across every recent report is this: no firm decision has been made. Not they've decided against it, not they're trying right now. Just undecided, actively discussing it, weighing it. Those closest to the couple reportedly say no firm decision has been made, even as speculation keeps dominating conversation among fans who want a cleaner answer than reality is offering. What has reportedly changed is the living situation, and that tells you something about where their heads are at, even without a baby announcement attached to it. Insiders describe the couple figuring out where to actually raise a family, with one source describing their thinking around Swift's existing home directly. They don't want to live in Taylor's house. They want a home that represents their marriage. The same source added that every room, every decision, every memory should belong equally to both of them, framing it as the two of them starting this new chapter as partners, rather than one person's life absorbing the other's. That's not baby planning exactly, but it's adjacent to it in an important way. You don't typically hunt for a home that represents shared ownership and shared memory, unless you're thinking beyond just the two of you. Whether that means kids next year or kids in 5 years is impossible to know from the outside. But the instinct to build something jointly, from scratch, rather than move into an existing life, says something about the kind of foundation they're trying to lay before anything else gets added to it. Meanwhile, both of them are still deep in their own careers, and that's not slowing down for anybody. Kelce's heading into another demanding NFL season with a Super Bowl run as the expectation, on top of restaurants, a growing entertainment career, and a weekly podcast. Swift, according to reporting, hasn't paused either. She's reportedly continued working on new music, even through the wedding planning process, and by some accounts is already developing another album. Neither of them looks like someone clearing their calendar for a nursery next month. And that's really the honest shape of this story. Not a secret pregnancy, not a confirmed due date, not a couple who's decided against children either. It's two people who've each said, in their own way and at different points, that they picture a family in their future. Kelce to his brother, Swift through a song about a driveway and a basketball hoop, while also carrying real specific reasons to be careful about when and how that happens. One partner isn't scared, the other has lived through actual threats that make caution feel less like hesitation and more like responsibility. The dog photos, the podcast comment, the house hunting, the lyrics, none of it adds up to a confirmed answer. And maybe that's the point. This is a couple that spent years being watched for cues, being asked to hand over their future to public speculation before they've even settled it themselves. What's clear is they're not avoiding the conversation. They're having it carefully on their own terms, weighing a level of exposure that most people planning a family never have to think about. Whether that turns into an announcement next year or in 5 years, the groundwork, the shared home, the shared intent, the honest reckoning with what it would actually take to protect a child born into that kind of spotlight is already being laid, one quiet decision at a time. Sources: Are Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce having a baby after their wedding? Stylecaster: Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce's baby plans revealed as the couple faces an impossible dilemma just days after their wedding. Yahoo: Is Taylor Swift pregnant? Explaining Bill Simmons fueled speculation about baby with Travis Kelce. Yahoo Sporting News: Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce's baby plans revealed as the couple faces an impossible dilemma just days after their wedding. Stylecaster: Taylor Swift's video with Travis Kelce falsely linked to pregnancy rumors. The News: Surprising update on Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce's baby plans. Yahoo The Blast: Surprising update on Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce's baby plans. The Blast. Exclusive: Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce's baby news. Newlyweds are doggy parents as they train for first child. AOL: Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce's new chapter is all about how they plan to raise children in NYC. She Knows: Taylor Swift, Travis Kelce's baby plans revealed less than a month before wedding. Family life in mind. Yahoo: https://www.yahoo.com/entertainment celebrity articles. Taylor Swift, Travis Kelce baby 183,413,169.html